So I'm glad to say that some of my theories for Stargirl episode 7 were correct from last week. And we gotta talk about it because this actually had some cool characters coming back and some cool storylines being set up for potential episodes. So we're gonna be jumping into episode 7 of Stargirl, but before we get into it, welcome to NonStopAntonio, where I talk about everything nerdy. If you like content just like this, hit the subscribe button for more, and I hope you enjoy this video. My theory about Jade and Obsidian being in this episode was correct. Jade comes back in the preview, pretty much setting up what's going to happen in this episode. And I forgot in season 2 that we did have a lady call Mr. Bones about Todd having a sister. Mr. Bones has had Todd, well, for at least the last 6 months, according to this show. Because 6 months ago is when Jenny left the home, and she was kicked out, and that's what's led her to the Green Lantern ring, and then led her to Courtney. And at the same time, that's those 6 months ago, Todd accessed his Shadowland powers. Because when Jenny connected with the ring, it also connected with him, connecting him to the Shadowland and Jenny to the Green Lantern ring. And that's when he got taken in by Mr. Bones. And all they did the whole time for the last 6 months was hold him prisoner and doing experiments on him so that he couldn't unleash his power because he was afraid that he'd destroy the world, which I'm sure is what Mr. Bones was telling him this entire time. And I was also looking up HELIX because the facility that they're at is connected to Mr. Bones, which honestly, again, I forgot that was in the last season, because HELIX was a group of 6 mutated children experimented on in the womb by deranged Dr. Benjamin Love. When each child was born, he took them away from their parents, saying that they were stillborn, and they slowly disappeared. The teenage kids were Mr. Bones, Penny Dreadful, Critter, Baby Boom, Tao Jones, and Eric Windwalker. They embarked on careers as supervillains and repeatedly crashed with Infinity Inc. And the thing is, both episode 7 and episode 8 are called Infinity Inc. Part 1 and Part 2, which it all adds up. You have the HELIX connection, you have the Mr. Bones connections, and the Jade and Obsidian connections, who were part of that team as well. But let's get back to the main plot of the episode, where the JSA is looking into all the cameras. They're all acting normal, which is very suspicious because the Duke and Whitmore family have just like barely any food on their plate and they're trying to act normal, which they really aren't. Then you have Zeke, Jakeem, and Rick playing a game, and Zeke obviously stating that they're being watched because he's like, it's not nice to spy on people. And then even Rick just staring at the camera ever so slowly. Like, guys, you're not inconspicuous. You're really showing that you know about the cameras. However, Mr. Bones is just not picking it up apparently, or at least he wasn't watching the cameras at those times. And I like how Beth uses the goggles to set a whole blackout of the town so they can go and destroy all the cameras. You have Sylvester kind of going everywhere that they can't go around town. Yolanda going into her home and getting rid of them, getting kicked out by her mother who's accusing her of doing drugs, seeing boys, and not trusting her once ever. And the thing is, I hate Yolanda's mom. She's a complete bitch. And if she dies, I would be happy. I mean, I wouldn't be sad anyways. And I like how we have Rick using his powers nonstop now. And Beth is concerned about him. Because when he goes to destroy one of the cameras, she's like, did you just turn on the hourglass just to destroy that? He's like, no, I can do it all the time now. And you can kind of see that Rick has roid rage of some sort. He's angrier, he's more aggressive, and he's just showing off his strength. And he even says that when he breaks things, it feels better, like gives him the pump. Rick's not going down a great path because if Rick gets addicted to this power and wants to be strong, if anyone calls him weak or tries to take it away, he's going to fight back, and it's not going to end well. And I like how when the power gets turned back on, he literally turns to the camera and says, we're coming for you, and breaks the last one in the school, alerting Mr. Bones that they're onto him. I'm sure he would have figured that out anyways when he found out that all the cameras were off. And then we have the Shade going to see Courtney and Pat, which really he was going to see Courtney, tries to take Courtney away, Pat follows. He brings them to an underground basement, which we find out that he's working with none other than Jenny. Jade herself is there, and she says her powers have been kind of off ever since they ran into Eclipso and they had the black goo, because the black goo seemingly got into the Green Lantern ring, connecting her light with the Shadowland's darkness. So you have the light and the dark conflicting with one another, decreasing Shade's and Jade's power, which honestly I did not see coming, and I think it's pretty cool to tie them both together, especially because Jade and Obsidian's power are pretty much opposite. You have the light and the shadows, which the light and the dark, which I think is pretty cool to see how it's affecting all of them. And I like how Jenny knows that her brother's there, and she's going to look for him, but the Shade doesn't know that he's actually a part of the Shadowlands yet, which is interesting because you would think that Shade because he has such a strong connection to the Shadowlands, he would know where another person connected to that would be. I guess Todd is kind of secluded and trapped because they're suppressing his powers to make sure they don't get unleashed, so that's why Shade doesn't really realize him until he's closer, because Shade can tell where he is, which is obviously stating that he's connected to the Shadowlands, but no one picks up on that yet. And then when they do find him, Jenny tries to free him, And Todd's like, don't release me because I will destroy the world. And of course, because their two powers kind of conflict, both their eyes turn green and the shadows get unleashed. And he kind of turns into the shadow monster, which ends up absorbing Pat and Jade at the end, which brings them to the Shadowlands. And I don't think Pat's actually been to the Shadowlands yet, so he's experiencing it all for the first time and kind of learning what Courtney went through last season. And then when they showed the episode 8 trailer, you had Pat and Jade in the Shadowlands, Courtney talking to Mr. Bones, so she's finally coming face to face with Mr. Bones, who seems to be the main antagonist of the season. So something's about to go down because we're finally meeting the big bad, even though we know who it is before. We're finally actually seeing them on screen, which, yeah, this is the first episode we actually got to see Mr. Bones again. Like, we haven't seen him since the end of last season, so it took 7 episodes to get to that point. And because the Shadowlands show their darkest fears, I feel like we're going to see a lot of the ISA, because in the trailer you could see Gambler, but I'm sure that's not the only villain we're going to see. I'm sure we're going to see a bunch of other ones, which is going to be cool. Hopefully we'll see some villains that we haven't actually met yet, so that we'll see them in the main reality once they get out of the Shadowlands, either later this season or in the next. It also seems like Jenny is trapped in the trailer, so it's looking like she didn't get brought into the Shadowlands either, and that she is trapped in the facility with Courtney, but instead of being with Courtney and facing Mr. Bones, she's trapped in a room where she probably can't use her powers. Honestly, this was a really cool episode. It felt like it stretched out a little bit too long, like they're really dragging some of the plot points, where it probably could have moved a little quicker than some of the other episodes. However, they probably needed to stretch it out because the second part and this part just didn't fit into one episode, and they had to add a couple extra scenes to make it flow a little better, which is what I think is happening. And I am enjoying it, and I like Obsidian and Jade coming back, and I really hope that they get added to the JSA roster when this is all over, because I feel like the JSA really needs to be adding some new characters into it, because it is a big team. I mean, you don't need to focus on each character every episode, but it would be cool to be like, hey, we need our team to team up against these villains. Like at the end of last season when we had the JSA and some of the old ISA members working together, like that was a really cool moment, and I want to see another one like that this season. And I would really hope for some more permanent JSA members. What do you think of this episode, and what do you think is going to happen going forward? Do you think Jade and Obsidian are going to join the JSA? Let me know down in the comments, and if you like content just like this, hit the subscribe button for more, because I talk about Stargirl weekly. I'm going to be doing Black Adam later today, and we're going to have a bunch of stuff to talk about with DC moving forward when all the shows come out in November, because we do Doom Patrol and Titans coming out as well. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you guys like it. Hit the like button. It helps out the channel a lot, and I'll talk to you all later.